Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm host. I'm Dan Sissick. I'm here in Las Vegas, Nevada, where we've been having bipolar weather. It'll kind of start to warm up, then the next day it'll decide to go down, back into the 50s and 60s. So I'm just calling it bipolar because it doesn't know what it wants to do. So I will let you all jump out, and if you're having that kind of weather, I feel for you. If you're not, hope it's nicer.
Yeah, Jason Roberts here from St. Petersburg, Florida, Tampa Bay area. Welcome. Great to be here.
Good morning, Samantha Studebaker Carl. I'm not sitting on the ocean, but I'm in Indiana. Looking forward to the discussion.
Hello, this is Catherine Clement, and I'll get started on the reading. Let me flip over to my scribd page. All right, so in scribd, we are on page 99, and it's the very last little section in chapter 4, and I think I'm gonna read this and then maybe move on to chapter 5, the first part of chapter 5. So this is the cycle of acquisition and elimination. When the nervous system is overstimulated, the ego oscillates between cycles of acquisition and elimination. First, it seeks out more in an attempt to be further away from the perceived hardship of less. I'll read that again. First, it seeks out more in an attempt to be farther away from the perceived hardship of less. Once it is satisfied a momentary hunger for more, it inevitably switches gears and uses the same seeking energy to eliminate things from its life. An example of this could be an insatiable desire for a soulmate relationship that is believed to be the remedy for loneliness. More often than not, the one seeking such a partner finds one. Maybe the romance lasts weeks. Sorry, I had a notification pop up and it blocked my vision. I couldn't see. Maybe the romance lasts weeks, months, or even years until the one who pursued a relationship so passionately now believes their happiness will be found in being single. Once they are single and available, they soon explore the possibilities of finding a different partner, repeating the same pattern no matter how long the new relationship may or may not last. Of course, there are also people in relationships who would be much happier if they left. But when the cycle of acquisition and elimination continues in such a predictable, repetitive manner, it might be time to take a closer look at the forces that influence you. You might even be reading this and thinking, I've become aware of these patterns and cycles, which is why I'm on a spiritual path attempting to resolve them. This can get even more frustrating when the very path you pursue to address the issues of the ego becomes a new way for the ego to reinvent itself. It can also become more complicated if the spiritual path teaches you to monitor or oppose your ego only to create a new spiritual persona that patrols your psyche to make sure no ego makes an appearance. Instead of overwhelming yourself by trying to keep it all straight or working so hard to do the right thing, I invite you to immerse yourself in love, no matter how many patterns, beliefs, judgments, or self-defeating habits remain active in you. The fact that you are here reading these words offers renewed hope that life is pointing you in a direction where your greatest success is ensured. By loving the one who can't do anything right, loving the one who feels like a failure, or even loving the one who is burdened by discontent, you immediately turn a corner in the direction of true heartfelt relief. This is why I say, you always deserve more love, not less. By offering more love to your true innocent nature on a regular basis, the measurements of gains and losses, along with the patterns of acquisition and elimination, quickly fall apart. In essence, being caught in patterns of ego creates the very discontent that an ego is trying to resolve. That is, until you directly address the core of human suffering by returning to love once and for all. Once you recognize each compulsion for more of this or less of that, as always in which your inner child cries out for love, as ways in which your inner child cries out for love, a world of pain, stress, injustice, and antagonism becomes a reality of peace, freedom, inspiration, and joy.
I just want to,
The overact.
I
Oh,
was
go
going to
ahead.
say, I was just going to say, I know we were going to go ahead and jump into 5, but I think there's just right in that very beginning of the cycle of acquisition and elimination, I think that first paragraph probably bears just a little discussion, and then go ahead and jump on starting chapter 5. Are you guys okay with that, or do you guys want to go ahead and just jump into 5? Because for me,
I'm
when
fine
it was
with that.
saying, when it says when the nervous system is overstimulated, the ego oscillates between cycles of acquisition and elimination. First, it seeks out more in an attempt to be farther away from the perceived hardship of less. Once it has satisfied a momentary hunger for more, it inevitably switches gears and uses the same seeking energy to eliminate things from its life. And I know we did cover a little bit of this last time, but I think it, for me, I never really realized that before. And I know we kind of, but it is interesting how we do kind of dive in and then pull out, based on where we're at or what we're feeling or what we're going through. And I never really realized that, but it makes sense that in the times when I'm going through something I don't like this week, I went through some stuff, and it was like I really did not want to have to deal with that and go through that, because it put me in a position of being outside what I consider my normal routine, and was making me face some things I knew were coming down the line, but in essence, I wasn't really ready to realize or accept. But once it happened, I was forced into accepting it, and I had to kind of move in and closer and get whatever I needed to do done and taken care of. So I think that's just something that for me, it's kind of, as I look back now, revealed itself more, that I did have that moment where in the beginning I was like, kind of like, oh crap, now the reality of this is real. I have to deal with it, and deal with something I haven't had to deal with for the last 4 years. And it wasn't anything really bad or physical or anything. It was just a situation. And then move into, rectifying it and moving into the new situation and being accepting of that as inevitable in order to continue with my livelihood and moving forward in my life and getting to where I want to get. So that's the only little bit it's never really hit me the way it's hit me like it did this week, that we do go back and forth and we do kind of push towards certain things, but then we pull back to help get to that even keel, so to speak. That's all. We can go on to 5 now. Sorry.
I think this is a really good, we can go into 5. I was just going to say I think this is a really good chapter, because I hadn't, even though we've been talking about it, I really didn't quite see it that way. Till you were reading it, Catherine, I wasn't thinking in terms of that. And but it makes a lot of sense, because we get into a like, say we join a new group, and it's kind of like it can be a little overwhelming, or sometimes you're afraid of joining a group that you really want to join because it feel like things can happen too fast, and you sort of pull back. And I never really made that connection that, well, this is, overstimulation of, I'm overstimulated, or my ego is overstimulated, or I was just, you just, I guess I just never really thought about it at all. But it does kind of make sense that, that, and so many different things. It's like when you're in a new relationship and the person sort of, everything's going great, but then the person kind of pulls back, or kind of puts up a wall, or maybe even you do it yourself, and there's this tendency to want to take things slow. And I kind of see that now, why that could be, because maybe we're looking to just sort of experience it, but we have this urge to pull back, but maybe we don't want to pull back all the way. And eventually, once we're used to it, then we're like, maybe, okay, I can, I want more of that. I could deal with more of that. It's not going to take me away from all the other things that I have going on, or I'm not going to lose myself in it and then turn around and go, well, what happened to the rest of my life? I just put everything else on hold. And there's this there's this worry, I've experienced in those types of situations. I just never placed it on having an overactive or overstimulated ego being the cause of it. So thanks for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, and if you want go on to the next chapter, that's fine too. I think I'll have to unpack this last chapter today.
Go ahead, Catherine.
All right. The overactive mind. In the practice of loving what arises, the heart isn't always the part of the body calling out for your attention. While the heart can always remain your central point of focus, it is helpful to unravel the nervous system by sending love to an overactive mind. As your life experiences may reveal, your mind may be as noisy as your heart is closed. By allowing the mind to be embraced as a child in need of kindness, support, acceptance, and attention, you are able to end each conflict within yourself by honoring the one who cannot be silenced any longer. Many have turned their mind into battlefields in response to the hurtful, destructive, or even judgmental thoughts that consume their attention. While it makes sense to imagine how peaceful your mind would become if only you could unplug it from the outlet, the mind only remains overactive as an attention-seeking device the universe uses to help you return to love. Whether or not you enjoy or agree with your mind has really nothing to do with why it's overactive or consumed in doubt, fear, pain, or judgment. Spirituality should never be confused with obedience training. Your goal is not to wrestle your mind into submission or pry your heart open with any degree of force. The invitation that has been sent your way is to recognize everything, including the activity of your mind, as an opportunity to love. You can think of incessant mental noise as an alarm clock. Its purpose is to wake you up by reminding you of the perfect moment to embrace your mind with unwavering, heartfelt support. From this deeper space of harmony, you are not blaming the mind, but responding to it in the way that love would reach out to a 5-year-old in pain. As I often say, if it's not the way you would talk to a child in need, it shouldn't be the way you talk to yourself. As you engage with your mind like a parent consoling a child, a feeling of safety allows your heart to expand. Once the alarm clock of your mind has done its job by properly informing you of the next one in line to be loved, it becomes silent until another reminder is needed. Just as you don't have to anticipate running out of gas because there's a gauge in your car to track the level available, There is no reason to stress or worry about loving yourself when emotional reactions or an overactive mind already act as the perfect signals to alert you. Above and beyond any degree of understanding, the greatest demonstration of your true divine nature is a body that feels safe enough to participate in life with openness and enthusiasm. When you have aligned with the most exciting possibilities that have been awaiting your arrival, you remain relaxed and responsive, no matter how tumultuous the world appears to be or how triggered anyone becomes. I'm sure there's plenty to chew on there.
Okay, I'll bite. I always seem to have a thought about things anyway. So, there was a part in here where, where he speaks about by allowing the mind to be embraced as a child in need of kindness, support, acceptance, and attention, you are able to end each conflict within yourself by honoring the one who cannot be silencing. And then he goes on a little farther to talk about talking to or addressing the situation like you would like with a 5-year-old child. And in my mind, I understand with what he's saying in some sense, but at the same point, I also feel that there are times where I'm not talking to the 5-year-old child. I'm talking to the adult and the person that's in the here and now and doing with stuff that's now. And sometimes some things don't deal with issues from, let's say, a 5-year-old child, but issues that may have happened in between, that point in time and where you're at now. And I don't know if for me, if I'm not fully grabbing it or understanding what he's getting at, but I feel that there are times when I don't need to talk to the 5-year-old child. I need to talk to the person that is dealing with something from more recent past, even though it might be 10, 15, 20 years ago or something like that, but it's still with me and I'm still harboring it because it's affecting whatever I'm going through now. So I don't know if I'm missing something there or if I'm just not fully getting that whole little bit of what he was saying there.
My interpretation of that is that he's asking you to be as compassionate with your adult self as you would a 5-year-old self. In other words, first of all, the stuff that you're processing, although it's something that happened 10 years ago and not when you were a child, you might still be processing that from the 5-year-old child's point of view, which is why it's still so hurtful, instead of having an experience and processing it that day or that week or whatever. If you're still harboring something 10 years after it happened, then chances are there's a younger part of yourself that's not understanding what's going on. And you need to talk to that little one a little bit. But I think what he's mostly going for is that, talk to yourself when you're facing challenges. Talk to yourself in a loving way, as opposed to, I think when we're talking to our adult self, we tend to put on our big girl panties or big boy boxers or whatever you guys call yours. And we, okay, language, caution. We bitch slap ourselves and we tell ourselves to, shut up, quit whining, get with the program, whatever. You wouldn't do that. Hopefully, I pray you wouldn't do that to a 5-year-old child who was experiencing some frustration. So I think he's just driving at that point, is to be kind to ourselves and not bitch slap ourselves around through life.
Okay, now based on how you presented it and how you put it, I kind of understand better what you're saying, but and maybe that's part of the reason why in my head I was looking at it differently, because there were times when I was a child, but I got the reaction placed on me or used or inferred or however that seemed to try and that I went through, maybe that they were expecting me to be an adult, and maybe that's why in my head maybe that's why in that sense maybe I'm wasn't understanding it or seeing it that way, where even though when I was a child and I needed that understanding, or somebody needed that understanding at that point in time, they didn't receive it. They got the reaction of be an adult, even though you weren't an adult at that age, and deal with it. And that's the way life is. So now I can put the two and two together and see and get what he's getting at now.
I think this is really interesting, the way he compares talking to yourself like talking to a 5-year-old child, because I have a 5-year-old granddaughter right now. And some things she falls down and she bumps her knee, then obviously I'm, oh, are you okay? I'm checking on you and all of that, but then also I'm trying to get her to recognize, okay, what did you do to cause that? Why did you fall down and bump your knee? What thing happened right before that happened to kind of get you to recognize. So there's this aspect of having compassion, but yet helping a child to learn about what it's like to be a human in this human world. And, because she struggles a lot with things that she says is too hard, things that we as humans need to go through this struggle in order to achieve, in order to accomplish a thing, whatever that might be. For instance, what was she doing yesterday? And so here's one thing that she's got longer hair. Okay. And so because she has long hair, there's tangles, and she keeps wanting me to not brush her hair because of the tangles, because tangles hurt. And so as much as I want to be compassionate, and as much as I want to go as gently as I can brushing her hair, I'm also having this conversation with her about, if you want long hair, one of the things that you have to overcome is the discomfort of having tangles pulled and brushed out, because it's uncomfortable, and as a child that just hurts, and you don't want it, and obviously we don't want it. And I'm like, well, you don't have to have tangles, you don't have to go through that, but if you don't want that, we have to cut your hair off. So if you want long hair, you have to have this. So I feel like in some ways what he's suggesting is great, but then in other ways, we still have these conversations in our head with ourselves. If we want this thing, or we want to go through this life experience or whatever, we're going to come to things that are hard, and they're emotionally difficult, and they're physically difficult. And how do we navigate those things? It's like right now with this property we're trying to find, we've found a potential property. There are some things that I'm concerned about with it. And so I have fears, I have excitement, I have worry, I have this whole cycle of, acquisition versus elimination, that whole thing. And I'm reading this and I'm going, okay, how do I work through this in such a way? Because there was that little previous section of in the last chapter where it was talking about, when you try and like overcome the ego, yet what was it? It said you might even be reading this thinking, I've become aware of these patterns and cycles, which is why I'm working on a spiritual path to resolve them. And then he says, this can get even more frustrating when the very path you pursue to address the issue of the ego becomes a new way for the ego to reinvent itself. It's like, I'm laughing going, okay, so I'm trying to resolve these issues, but then I'm creating new issues for myself. And so is that just the method of madness of human existence, is to keep having things come up, working through them in one way or another? Is that the key, is just working through that, loving yourself as you go through the ups and downs, as you go through the back and forth between fear and love, excitement and worry, versus closing yourself off from the possibility? It's like when Jason, you were talking about relationship, you get in a new relationship and it's so exciting. It's so like involving it, not overwhelming is not the right word. It's the word that is pleasurable overwhelming, an all-encompassing kind of thing. And yet then you're like, oh wait, what about the rest of my life? What if this doesn't work out? And you start worrying about it not working out when it's working great. You have this is just this roller coaster of stuff that we do to ourselves. And he's talking about it being like the overactive mind, and that our mind is an indicator that we are needing to address something, just like when the body is an indicator of something is wrong, whether it's a physical thing that's indicating you have a health problem, or it's a physical thing we're letting you know that you need to work on an emotional thing. That's just stuff that just kind of came up when in those kind of sections for me, because I'm just like, how can I apply what he's talking about here to what's actually going in my life right now? And what does that mean for me? And I guess it's just really a call to question things deeper and look at them from different perspectives, and not just stay stuck in the emotional roller coaster. That's where I kind of get at the moment.
Well, I think in that, and if you go down to the next couple of paragraphs, it also says it can also become more complicated if a spiritual path teaches you to monitor or oppose your ego only to create a new spiritual persona that patrols your psyche to make sure no ego makes an appearance. And that might be a little bit what you were just hitting on about, how do I navigate this, and how do I still deal with the situation, but how do I deal with it coming from that love, but still address it appropriately, I guess. But I think, and then down below that, it also says, instead of overwhelming yourself by trying to keep it all straight or working so hard to do the right thing, I invite you to immerse yourself in love, no matter how many patterns, beliefs, judgments, or self-defeating habits remain active in you. And I think that's the key thing that you were just trying to hit on, is the fact that you're here reading these words offer renewed hope that life is pointing you in a direction where your greatest success is ensured. So maybe if you go back and don't create that persona, don't patrol, I still think we monitor, and I still think we're going to naturally do that anyway. That I think that's just the way of human nature and our psychological makeup is. I think we just need that, I guess, so to speak. But to go back and immerse ourselves in love and let go of, how many patterns or beliefs or judgments or self-defeating habits, because a lot of times, like you said, we'll get into that, example you're talking with Jason of being in that new relationship, and we're all giddy and we're all, really everything seems to be going fine and everything. And then all of a sudden we have that thought, oh no, what if this doesn't work out? Which inevitably creeps up no matter how hard you try to push it away. And it seems like the more you push it away, the more it tries to creep in, because I think it goes back also to that, thing of, cycles of acquisition and elimination. First seeks out more in attempt to be further away from the perceived hardship of less, And that's kind of what we're doing. We're like in this enamored state, and we're really, and so but then that little tiny thought comes in of, oh, but what if, and we're trying to keep that at bay. But if we just accept that, say, okay, yeah, there's that possibility, but I'm going to accept that possibility is there, but I'm not going to focus on it. And then whatever happens, and go from love, keep going, pushing forward. Maybe that's part of how that cycle works, I guess. Maybe that's how we can help not defeat ourselves, so to speak, but help us be able to continue to move forward no matter whatever the outcome is. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, or just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it seems like. I just wasn't aware. I wasn't recognizing it, that it could just happen so fast, that wanting more, wanting something new, and then immediately, once you have any hint of that newness or that thing in your life, you start to, at least for me, my mind starts to question me, like, whoa, wait, am I ready for this? And I start evaluating the rest of the stuff that I'm trying to do in my life. I'm like, well, am I ready for this? Am I ready for this? Or is this really a good time for this? Or is this, and then, but it happens almost immediately, is what I'm recognizing. Like in today, you'd be on one of those dating app, and you just strike up a conversation with someone who starts having the conversation back with you, and you're like, yeah, okay, this is good. And then immediately I'm like, wait, hold on, I really don't have even time for this conversation. How am I going to have time for this for a relationship? Hold on. And I immediately want to pull back. But then, like you were saying, Dan, I guess the point is to get to that point, get to that place where we are comfortable with anything that arises. Like in basically the last paragraph right before discovering safety by slowing your breath, but the very last paragraph on page 90, where it says, above and beyond any degree of understanding, the greatest demonstration of your true divine nature is a body that feels safe enough to participate in life with openness and enthusiasm. When you have aligned with the most exciting possibilities that have been awaiting your arrival, you remain relaxed and responsive, no matter how tumultuous the world appears to be or how triggered anyone becomes. So it's like you'll be all ready for all things when you're in alignment. So hoping to get there soon.
It's just like just letting go of the fear, because I feel like it's the fear that causes everything, so it's love what arises and letting go of the fear. Because so then if you don't have the fear, you let go of the fear, you allow the fear to come up, but then you let it go and trust in like it's saying, have the enthusiasm of the possibilities that could arise, rather than the worry of the fearful things that could arise. As I feel like for me, more often than not, that's what it is that, I'm excited about something, or I'm looking into this future, and then I'm like, but what if this, and what if that, and I got a plan for this, and I got a plan for that, and if we do this, then we have to do that, rather than just kind of going into the unknown with an excitement and enthusiasm and assuming it's all going to work out amazingly, but then that's like, you have the human side of you that's just like, well, you can't just fly by the seat of your pants and hope for the best, because who knows what'll happen, but then again, who knows what will happen? So I don't know. It's so, I want to just say it's just so exciting, but there's so many things that are so scary of just, I wish that we had the ability to just not feel the past things that have happened that have been unpleasant, because I feel like as you get older, we have more things that have happened in our lives that we weren't enjoying so much, that were unpleasant or scary or whatever, and then we go forward into our lives and we're faced with a new thing and we compare it to all the things that happened in the past. And then we're worried that, okay, this other event is going to happen again, or something like it is going to happen again. And what if that does happen? And yeah, I had that. Chris has this buddy of his that his kind of saying or philosophy in life is they can't eat you, so he goes without fear into so many things that I'm like, you got to be freaking crazy, and he's like, well, they can't eat you. I'm like, okay, well, they could, but, figuratively speaking, or, and that's what I'm fear, that's what I fear, you're right, so, and yet, okay, I can go into, I've been, we've overcome a lot of different things in our lives, a lot of different hardships and situations and whatever, and we're still here. They didn't eat us, so we're still here. So whatever is coming next, we can do it. And if it starts to fall apart or whatever, we just figure it out as we're falling. I don't know. I just don't know. You want everything to be, you want to go into something and be like, this is going to be amazing. It's all going to work out great. And everything is going to be awesome. And yet I know I know that's not true, because things happen, but at the same time, maybe I just, every new thing, even if it's scary, is still a new exciting adventure rather than a scary abyss of insanity. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, actually, as you were saying that, you made me think of this, and I'm going to throw this out for everybody, and hopefully, for me, I think it was a little bit light bulb. But what if we didn't have that, go through that fear and deal with that in the past, then how can we get to points where we read books like this, where we can learn to look back and look at those things and say, oh, okay, and learn to grow and understand them. So then moving forward, we can work on moving out in love and accepting the fear rather than being so afraid and trying to go, like it says in the beginning of this, that chapter, or when we first started, of that cycle of acquisition and elimination, where we go from, first, it seeks out more an attempt to be further away from the perceived hardship of less, and accepting, okay, there's going to be a perceived hardship of less, but we've walked through similar times before. So, and we came through that, and to be able to say, okay, I can walk through whatever this comes next, but I can not be as afraid of it, because each time it's going to be a new experience for that. But you may not go through the deep, have it hurt as much, or be so deeply, or so, for lack of a better word, maybe depressed, or fall farther into that, low. You can come back to that, high of love, and then level off again to where you're moving forward in love, and you're, and you are able to proceed through it with more, I'm going to use love, but in my mind, I'm thinking ease, but more love, and being able to see it for what it's worth, maybe a little bit more. And therefore you can say, okay, so even though this didn't work out, I learned from it, I grew from it, and it didn't have the effect on me as it did, say, like 10 or 15 years ago. I understand, I was able to love me more in this situation, to get through to here to be able to move forward to whatever new thing comes up.
Yeah, it's like when you were speaking earlier in regards to talking to ourselves or responding to ourselves like we're speaking to a 5-year-old child, and I think you mentioned sometimes you wanted to talk to yourself like you're more like a more current version of yourself, and I was kind of putting myself in my own mind of being like, well, it's almost as though you at some points we want to talk to ourselves in regards to like being a 5-year-old, perhaps with about things that happened when we were 5 years old, and then as you know, speak to ourselves as we think now that we should have been spoken to when things happened when we were a teenager, and how we should have been spoken to by our mentors or gurus or whoever you seek advice from in our 20s, and then again in our 30s. And so like a different version of mental talk to ourselves at each stage of our life when we needed it kind of comes to mind. But I do get the, being kind to ourselves and not as Catherine said, bitch slapping ourselves around about things. But I think as we grow and we go through life, we start learning about what it is that we need, and we start to realize even subconsciously, if not consciously, about what our life was lacking, what we needed, or where we just moved on from something and didn't take any time to figure it out. And so maybe some of those raw emotions might pop up at certain times, and then we're like, whoa, this is not the time to deal with it either. And nor do I have the tools to do it. So this is giving, in my perspective, it's giving everyone an opportunity to see things in a different light, and to deal with things when it's a good moment, and even work through things in the moment, in a different way that I wouldn't have thought. I kind of think, like Steve Harvey has a saying that I was using here recently about, he was saying life, what was it? Success is uncomfortable. So get used to it. Get used to, if you want success, then get used to being uncomfortable. It's like, okay, well, that's one way to do it. Just push through it and that push through the uncomfortableness. But then this with, loving, using love is also another way. So you can kind of deal with it at the same time. And then I was thinking the other day that, that feeling sometimes when I have to do certain things, maybe like public speaking or cold calling, I get this feeling in the pit of my stomach. And I was thinking, well, what if I think about it as that feeling in the pit of my stomach is actually me being hungry. It's hungry for more. It's hungry for that. It wants that. That's not, and sort of putting it giving it a different meaning, giving those feelings a different meaning, not like, it's like, oh, I'm not having that feeling in the pit of my stomach because whatever it is going to eat me and destroy me. It's recognizing that this is something I want more of. And, or this recognizing this is an opportunity for success, or this is an opportunity to grow. And yeah, it may feel a little uncomfortable, but that's kind of the nature of it. And so I think this helps to be recognizing it in these different forms. So yeah. long as it's not Pac-Man that we're going up against, I think we'll be okay. He won't be eating us.
I love going back to something he said in the last chapter. I love how he brings out, when he's bringing up the example of a new relationship, how he points out that people go into the relationship with the misperception that it's going to solve their loneliness. And I think that's a huge, very easily read through and overlooked, but I think it's a huge part of it because we are constantly, it seems, for whatever reason, seeking things from outside of ourselves to fix us. And I don't know why we do that, because we are the only ones that have lived our experience. So how could something from the outside really understand and be able to tell us how to fix what we're going through, if you know what I'm trying to get at there? I mean, we have to solve our own loneliness within ourselves. We can't go into a relationship expecting the other person to solve our loneliness or to solve our unhappiness or to solve anything for us. Like, we need to solve that for ourselves and then go into the relationship. That's why I think so many relationships fail, because people have expectations of the other person about everything. I know it's just, that's how we are as humans. It's not something to beat ourselves up over. It's just something to recognize. And so when you're in the relationship and you think it's going to fix everything about your life, and then suddenly everything's going wrong, that's when you need to recognize, oh yeah, well, I went into it with the wrong expectations. But people don't usually do that. They usually just blame the other person and they move on, and they don't pick up the life lesson from it. We didn't come here to be, I think when we're out of body, we're just in this perfect, love zone sort of thing. And I think we come here to experience all of this stuff, whether we think we want to experience it or not. Because I don't know, guys, I see miracles in my life every day. And if you don't see miracles in your life, you're not paying attention. Pay attention, because there are miracles happening in your life every day. And if you can't see them in your life for whatever reason, thank God for social media. You can pull up a video about miracles in somebody else's life every day. And if you watch enough of those or pay attention to enough of those in your life, it hits you. Sometimes in a moment of despair, it has hit me. I'll just be in a complete moment of despair and breakdown, and then it will hit me how freaking perfectly timed everything is. Just watch a video on people that were almost got hit by a car and didn't, or almost there's 1 second difference. I've been in the same situation myself when I was driving for Lyft, where the car in front of me got T-boned. 1 second difference, it would have been me. There are so many miracles. It is so, I don't know why we come here and we think the world is out to get us. It's not. The world is here supporting us all the time. I mean, I don't have any idea how I got to this day that I'm living today, because there's been so many days where I didn't think there would be a tomorrow. There's been so many days when I begged that there wouldn't be a tomorrow. And yet, here it is. And I'm here talking, everything is amazing. And I'm not saying I don't have challenges, because I have a hell of a lot of challenges. But even amongst those challenges, I can see the miracles, and I can see things are absolutely perfect the way they are, even when they're uncomfortable or trying or painful or fearful or devastating. You know, I've put a thing in our chat about the Mike Dooley stuff. If you haven't listened to him, go listen to him. He's a hoot. Sign up for his notes from the universe. It really, I don't read them every day. I probably should. I don't read them every day, but the days when I need to read them and they're there, oh my God, they make such a difference in my life because they just remind me that it's all good. Like we need to relax and quit trying to micromanage everything. We're here. I mean, you can choose to believe that the universe is against you, but you're going to live a pretty miserable life that way. So it all comes back to choosing our thoughts, choosing what we say to ourselves, choosing on whether we're going to focus on all the good stuff going on in our lives, or maybe in our situation, in our yeah, we have challenges, but start counting all of the good things that are going on in your life instead of those 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 bad things that are going on, because I guarantee you there's a lot more good. But you have to look at it and you have to recognize it, be grateful for it. And yeah, we're going to have fear about situations, but we have to love ourselves through those because we're going to get through them. We are. And if we're not, I mean, if we don't, then we wind up back at home in our peaceful little loving spot. So, I mean, it's not bad either way you look at it.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to, I think it was you, Catherine, that was talking about how we tend to try and have other people be the ones that fulfill, or that we're gonna like, oh, everything's gonna be perfect and fine, but then you go through or get into a relationship and realize things are not perfect and fine. And I think you're right. I think it all really comes out of us and where we're at and where we're coming from. And I have a friend and this friend, I mean, his heart, I think, is in the right place, because he's always saying, don't you want to find somebody? Don't you want to be, I'm like, yeah, it would be nice. I would like that, but I'm not actually out there forcibly trying to look and find somebody, because I do really want it to be more natural, more, if it happens, it happens. So then that way it's more, to me, I think in my mind, more genuine and real, because it won't be forced by me. It won't be for me going out there and trying to fit that square peg in a round hole, so to speak. And just, I think that fits in our lives. We're trying to make those square pegs fit in those round holes whenever we have those issues and things come up. But going back to coming from that, talking to ourselves with love and how we would want to be approached and talked to, as if we did have somebody else in our life that genuinely loved and cared about us in that space and area, or however I'm trying to get it in my head. But I've got to be there first too. So I've got to be there first with myself before I can even give out there to let that even come back in. So I think, so that's why I keep telling them, I've said, I'm fine, I'm happy. Yes, I have my days where I'm, wish there was somebody to come home to and talk to and, just say, okay, I've had the language alert shittiest day of my life right now. You take over. I just need to go in the room and, unplug and, or cry or this, or, not focus on this right now. I need you to wear the big pants right now. Let me go be the little kid and cry and sulk or whatever in my room right now till I work past through it. And then I can come out and be more functional. That would be nice, but I don't have that availability. So I got to give that to myself in a way, which is a little bit harder, because sometimes I come home and there are still things that I've got to deal with. And it's hard to deal with, but there are, but if I can get to that love spot and encompass that love that's out there in the world, that I can call a friend, or I can do this, or I can somehow engage with somebody that somehow picks me up or lifts me up, or usually sometimes knows kind of the right thing to say, even though they may not physically be here, but in that sense, I can still, or I can look at old, notes or old videos or old pictures or something, kind of pseudo get that feeling back, for that brief moment. Then I usually can move forward and say, okay, I'm fine, things are good, but it's weird because I'm honestly, not pining away, sitting there saying, okay, somebody has to be physically here all the time, and I think that's a conundrum for him. He just doesn't fully get it, because he talks about how he easily can meet women and do stuff and get, but at the same point, this and that. And I'm just like, but I think he's missing some of the points that I think I've realized in life, and that, it's first where I'm at, and then it comes from out there. And, and I think this book and the overactive mind, I think, has that capability of doing that to us, causing us to focus on the wrong thing too.
Yeah, absolutely. The overactive mind. And then, as we spoke about a while ago, there was all this other stimuli that might be having an effect on us too. Like I think Samantha mentioned a while back, our diets and then Catherine mentioned the energies, and then we've got an overactive ego. So quite a few things to recognize and ignore at the same time, and still be open to all the possibilities. This is really great. I appreciate you all. Great to see you. Great you made it back on again, Lori, as well, and good to see you, Karen.
Yeah, we are at the top of the hour, so if any last thoughts or ideas, glad that you made it, Karen, Angel, and Lori. Glad you guys are here. Always happy to have you here with us.
And thanks again, Catherine, for your reading and your insights on everything. Appreciate that. And I have to I have to take a look at those notes from the universe that you mentioned.
They are so cool, and it is always my pleasure to be on here with you guys. And his premise, he just sends out that you sign up for it and you get an email. I think you get them just through the weekday maybe or something, and they're just quick little notes that remind you that the universe is like, we volunteered to come here to have an amazing adventure, and then we get in here and we let our mind torture us, so his notes just remind us that the possibilities are unlimited. Like, don't limit yourself. Go into each day actually feeling, because your body doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. So go into each day really feeling like, this is going to be the most exciting day of my life. Like, what's going to happen today is going to change my life forever. And just the thrill of that, and maintain that feeling and let the universe work the rest of it out.
Anybody else? Any last thoughts or anything? I'm going to just ask, what was that called again, Catherine?
Notes from the Universe.
Notes from the
Mike
okay.
Dooley. Yeah,
Okay.
Mike Dooley's the guy that does them. He's very, he's sort of a, he speaks quite directly like I do. So maybe that's why I like him. I like him because he's not, he recognizes that we do mess up. We do think the wrong thoughts. And what he reminds everybody is it's okay. Like, you're going to think the wrong thoughts. You don't have to be, just like Matt reminds us, you don't have to be this police officer walking around slapping your ego around all the time. Like, we're gonna try to manifest stuff, which we do primarily through our feelings, how we're feeling. So we have to kind of learn how to control how we're feeling. And we're gonna say the wrong thing, but that's okay, because thank God we're in a place where most of us don't have instant manifestation. We might have pretty quick manifestation. So we do need to be mindful of, what we're feeling and stuff. But it's okay that we make mistakes or we say the wrong thing. Like, we don't have to think that just because we had one negative thought yesterday that it's going to mess up our manifestation for the next 3 years. Like, we get so we think up some of the craziest things, at least I do. And so he just is so good at reminding me that it is all okay. Look at everything we've been through, that we made it through, that we never thought we could make it through, and yet here we are. So it's all okay. And not to wait for the next reincarnation to do all this stuff that we're afraid to do this time. Just go ahead and do it. And it if it doesn't, it's going to work out one way or another, and however it works out is going to be perfect. So just relax and enjoy the ride, because most of us just get so wired over everything. And he just, like, every time I read one of his notes, I take a deep breath and I can just, like, relax for a second. And sometimes a second is all it takes to shift you for the rest of the day. So sign up for them, Notes from the Universe. And it's not going to be, some of the stuff you sign up for, you feel like you've signed up for a torture program or something. It's not going to be like that at all. It's going to lighten your day and hopefully allow yourself to open yourself to possibilities that you had closed yourself off to before.
Well, with that, it's almost 8:15. So with that, once again, we're in the book, Whatever Arises. Love that. I love Revolution. That begins with You by Matt Kahn. We're in chapter 5. We'll be going on to the next section in chapter 5. If you want to be a part of us, you can always go to our Facebook page at Mindset Mastery Collective and join the group there, and then you can get a hold of any one of us if you want to be on the live stream or on the panel to share your thoughts and feelings. Also, you can find us on YouTube. Please give us a like, thumbs up, share in both places, Facebook and YouTube. Also, you can go to our Mindset Mastery Collective website at mindsetmastery.com. And I think that's right. Is that right, Samantha? Or Mindset Mastery Collective.com.
mindsetmasterycollective.com. Yes.
Mindsetmasterycollective.com, and also find, all the information there and all that. So with that, see you next week on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.
Hold on just a minute before. I wonder if you could get a GIF that, flails arms or shoots arrows or something like that. I realize that I am a lot older, like 6 generations older than the rest of you. But sometimes I get on there and I can't find the way to get to the event. That wasn't the total problem today because I got slow internet and all this kind of stuff. But
Can I ask you some questions? Did you order breakfast?
I didn't. I missed it.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. You have something you can do?
Yes, thanks. I've just moved. I've just moved, so I'm in a new situation. But anyway, I realize that different people are looking for different things. Like I was just looking for the Zoom. If I see Zoom on a page, I figure, oh, this has got to be highlighted. This is where I go, all this kind of stuff. Here you have this great block that's just beautiful that says join event. But I'm thinking maybe if you could set up fireworks.
Brando. Well, or you can also go to SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. That link will take you to a page that tells you how to join the Saturday Morning Mastermind. But that, I've got those all over the place. So anywhere in our Facebook group, pretty much all of our posts have something about, the weekly event in there. And for you, Karen, the easiest way for you to find it probably is to go into our Facebook Messenger chat when we talk back and forth throughout the week. I tend to post the link in there each week too. So,
what threw me off this morning is they made me sign into to Facebook. I'm thinking, what? And I'm thinking, of course, I don't know the password, and then they have me for the wrong. It's my fault, of course. The wrong email. The phone's been changed. I've just moved. It's like, please leave me alone. Just let me. Just take me there. Sorry. You do an excellent job, Sam. Really, it's just me.
Okay, I think we're done now.